Ready? Go ahead and call to order the Public Works Committee meeting of Tuesday, May 9th, 2023 to order. Roll call, please.
Alderman Mike O'Kane.
Here.
Bob Iverson.
Here.
Jim Pichard.
Present.
Carolyn Wands.
Present.
Heidi Wilson.
Present.
Ed Butler.
Present.
Chairman Mike Poor.
Present.
7 present.
7 present. We do have a quorum. I'd like to welcome our newest member, Alderman Ed Butler. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to be here.
Item number 2 is the approval of the minutes. These will be the minutes from the April 11th, 2023 meeting. Need a motion to approve those if there's no corrections.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, item number 3 is approve the agenda. There are nothing to remove from the agenda. So need a motion to approve the agenda, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item number 4, audience comments. Madam Clerk?
Did anyone wish to speak this evening? Okay, you don't have any this evening.
Well, that's good. Item number 5, chairman's comments. I had a whole litany I was going to talk about, but I'll skip it tonight. Wait for next meeting. Okay, moving on to item number 6, approval of the payrolls. These will be from the May 5th, 2023 run. I need a motion to approve those, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any questions on the payrolls? See none. Roll call, please.
Alderman O'Kane.
Yes.
Iverson.
Yes.
Pichard.
Yes.
Wands.
Yes.
Wilson.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Poor.
Yes.
7 yes.
7 yes. Moving on to vouchers payable, and for Alderman Butler, these were all been approved in the budget that we passed last year. So all the expenditures and things, unless it's a change order or something has already been approved in the previous council. So all these expenses have already been approved. This is just a formality. As they spend the money, we approve the expenditures.
Yeah, okay. It's good to know that.
Yeah.
And yeah, because I don't have a copy and,
Right.
you know, just to see what it look
Mhm.
like.
You didn't get a copy of the budget? You should have a copy of the budget, hard copy, or if not, we'll get you one. That'll show all the departments and what we approved and what their expenditures will be.
Right.
We didn't get it. It's online. It's online.
It's online,
Yeah.
okay.
I-
Gotcha.
We used to get a hard copy about this thick.
Okay,
But-
gotcha.
But anyway, so that's a lot of what we do. Usually toward the end of the fiscal year, which will be in April, we start doing a lot of amendments and things to get things clarified and balanced for the audit and things like that. So, but almost everything we spend now has been approved previously.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and you're always welcome to answer any or ask any questions
Okay,
of the department heads and things on what we spent.
sure.
Okay?
Okay.
Okay, with that, item number 7, approve the vouchers payable. These will be from the May 9th run. Need a motion to put that on the table, please?
So moved. Second.
Okay, any questions on the payables? Okay, seeing none, roll call, please.
Vice Chairman Iverson.
Yes.
Alderman Pichard.
Yes.
Wands.
Yes.
Wilson.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
O'Kane.
Yes.
Poor.
Yes,
7 yes.
7 yes, thank you.
Mike, I do have one question. I
Yes.
noticed that the stadium lighting, is that about done, the Danville Stadium?
Yeah, the lights are all up. They actually tested them during the day once, but we haven't actually done any testing at night yet.
Good. That's okay.
Okay, moving on to item number 8, finance, Comptroller Massey. We have 8A is a resolution approving a professional service agreement for the study of compensation of city employees. Need a motion to put that on the table, please?
So moved.
Second.
Okay,
Good evening. Thank you for letting me join the Public Works Committee meeting this evening. In the packet, what you have in front of you is the proposal we received from HUB International to perform a compensation study We talked a lot about that during the budget process a few months back. This would be a citywide compensation study. It would look at all positions within the city, not just non-union as it has been done in recent history. Yeah, the proposal's in front of you. Are there any questions on the proposal?
Alderman O'Kane.
Almost $63,000. Well, what's the payback on it? I mean, it sounds nice, but that's a lot of money.
I guess what I would consider the payback is there's definitely been some question about whether or not our city employees are compensated at market rate or close to market rate. This would be data collection and compare to ideally municipalities around us to see where we compare and compete with that. They'll be evaluating job descriptions, not just titles, to determine what they should be compensated and what their current compensation is comparing to a potential market rate. We may have employees who, are at market. We may have employees who are well below market. I guess in theory we could have employees who are potentially above market. I guess we'll see. The reason that the price tag is so high is because it's looking at every city employee, right? So they will be touching 300 full-time positions to see 300 full-time employees, not that many positions, because we have, like 50 officers that would have the same job description, but every employee would be valued for. And if you read through the proposal, it also talks about how it goes through, and they will help us develop a better process for our wages and managing our wages, how we will step from year to year, and how, inflation would impact our salary increases, if any, how if we create a new position within the city, we would find a way to price that appropriately within our wage chart, instead of just what we've been doing, kind of taking a stab at it, compared to what other people in the city do and what we think it's worth. This would outline a way for us to do that more accurately and more fairly. So they'll overhaul the ordinance with us and look at that and bring that to you. So it's not truly just looking at, okay, for example, what does a police officer make in Urbana-Champaign, Rantoul, Bloomington? All right, this is what they make. Here you go. It's a more encompassing process that they're offering us with HUB.
What percentage of our employment is already under union contract?
What do you mean by already under union? Like in a current agreement?
Yeah.
We have no open agreements currently. They're all settled.
Well, I mean, how many have a legal agreement already that were fixed?
I mean, I don't know the exact percentage. If you want me to calculate it, I can real quick. I would guess probably around 80% under a union.
And did we ask for prices from other companies?
We
on
did.
this? How was this company compared to the other companies?
Well, I sent out inquiries to 6 different entities. 3 got back with me. 1 stopped getting back with me, and then the other one has no experience doing wage studies for municipalities. So
I have
Vice Chairman.
sort of the same questions that Mike had. It seems like we spent the last few years trying to adjust the salaries and put everybody into the middle of the range. We've changed the residency requirement, done a lot of things in recent years. Are we having any particular problem finding positions? I know positions like engineer and attorneys, those are hard to get for anybody. So we've had problems with that. But have we had problems filling other kind of positions?
yes. Yeah, the answer is yes.
And Mike asked about the people who are in the union. Do they have to approve this kind of adjustment?
Well, we're not approving any adjustment. What we're approving here this evening is, will we hire an outside consulting company to come in and perform a professional service to evaluate what their current wages are compared to other forms of government in the region to see, are we paying market? How do we compare? Approving this makes no decision on raising or lowering anyone's salary. This is just to be able to collect the data to find out where we stand, right? Because what we've done before is we know we in recent years have been woefully under market rate, which is why we've taken a stab at trying to get individuals on the non-union wage chart scale to their midpoint. What I would say is that midpoint was on a wage study done in, I think it was like 2010. That midpoint is not super relevant at this point in time. I'd have to double check if it was 2010. It was many years ago. The market's changed a lot since then.
Well, and also the other side of that is living in Danville is considerably less expensive than Champaign Urbana. So I don't know if that's figured in to their cost
Yeah.
of living in particular towns as to what the wages are. Is that all part of
Yeah.
their review?
It is. If you read the proposal that's in the packet, it talks about how it does regional factors for employment. So they're going to try and compare it to things locally if they can't get enough, because basically we're relying on other municipalities to participate, right? They're going to send them a survey and they're going to ask them, these are the positions, please provide the job descriptions and what you're paying them, how long those individuals have been there. They're going to factor in seniority and longevity and all of that information. And if they can't get them to participate, they're going to go to other entities that will participate with us. But, if that municipality's in Seattle, that cost of living is obviously very, very different. They have a way to factor that out to make it apples to apples instead of apples to oranges as the raw data would be.
Have we been asked to participate by other groups who are trying to
We
do it?
have, and we have.
Okay.
We have been asked and we have participated because it's important to do that.
Corporation Counsel.
Two things. I don't think the consultant will have problems getting wages for positions in other municipalities. All they have to do is, like anyone else can do, is drop a FOIA request on each of those municipalities for current wages and all. In terms of unions, 80%, if that is the figure, and I know Ashland is trying to figure it without having it calculated, this will have an impact on unions because it will provide us with comparables in other communities. And when you negotiate the economic benefits, i.e. primarily salary, but there's other healthcare and all that. If we ever get into a dispute, the unions will, and both sides will have what are called comparables to see where does Danville, this particular union, whatever it is, fall and all. And if we have comparables from an independent study, not one we do, because that will be suspect only because, somebody will claim bias, but an independent study, when we go to negotiate with unions, we will be able to say, these communities have been found to be comparable. Now, we may argue about what communities are comparable, but that's a harder argument for both sides to make. So this will have a positive impact on bargaining with our unions when we start the next round of bargaining.
If I
Yeah.
able to give a comment, just research and data suggests that the average cost of losing an employee is 50 to 60% of that employee's salary. And that has to do with training costs, time lost, all these other things. And for us to continue, the public may not believe this, but we are a very lean entity as far as people go. We can't afford to not have extremely capable people and have them here. So for us to be able to retain people is critically important, and that requires us being up to date, having ordinances that are in line, and tiers that, and recruiting people in any position. You don't want to take a position that says, well, I got you in the door and you're stuck, type thing. We need an understanding of where we're going to go. And we all want that, if we take a position somewhere. The government body, as you all know, the typical raise process is you all vote on a raise that's not necessarily dictated by performance and other things. And as such, it's even more important that the ordinances and the tiers in place reflect market rates for people. And also something that we want, I know, and Ashland can maybe speak to this, we don't want an appearance of bias, internal bias against certain employees in this process. We want to be very clear that we've had professionals do this because so and so may think that I have a bias against them and that's why they didn't get this raise. We will be able to review them. However, we want it to be, and we don't want you all thinking that, we had bias in the process or the public thinking that. That's when, and to boot, none of us have time to do this, on top of that. So that's one reason that this is the approach. And I know this isn't my wheelhouse, but this is very important to me. And I think it's very important to the city that we not try to get the cheapest people we possibly can, but the best value for our citizens, which is done by being competitive in the marketplace so we can get good people and retain good people to serve the public.
Is there going to be public access to this afterwards? Or at least to the people of the city?
We haven't really discussed that. I don't know why there wouldn't be, because just like, so anyone can look up what my total compensation package is right now on the city website. So I don't know why we wouldn't say what the wage study information is for a position as opposed to what's already available, which is
Something like
what
this
I
is-
make, or
This-
anyone else who
something like
works for
this
the
is
city.
acceptable to put it out to the public and stuff.
If I might also, to answer your question, Alderman Iverson, everybody is basically having trouble getting employees. When we put out an ad for a laborer in Public Works, you'll get 50 applications from people that work at fast food restaurants that have no experience whatsoever to be a street laborer, which involves running loaders, dump trucks, plowing your snow in the winter. They have none of those skills. And you might get one application of somebody that does have a CDL license or has some kind of background in doing what Public Works does. And part of that reason is because of our tiered system through the contract. We start these individuals out at $18 an hour. I know that you've traveled down Voorhees and saw the sign at Quaker Oats that said 21 something an hour to start. Well, that's a big disparity. Do you want us to be out in the snow at 2 o'clock in the morning, or do you want to go work in a factory and make more money than you would plowing snow? And that's what we're all running into that. And we know we are. So
But that's the problem, is that everyone is running into that, even at the higher salaries. Quaker's not finding enough people. I know trying to get my prescriptions filled at Walgreens takes an all-day trip to get a prescription because they don't have people working there. And I think it's true everywhere. And I don't know how this is going to make it any better for us, frankly.
Well, I don't think there's anyone in this room that could argue that if they went to two different places and someone said, I'm going to give you $20 an hour, and the other one said, I'm going to give you $15 an hour, that you wouldn't say, well, I'm taking the $20 an hour job then. That's just human nature. Outside of me,
Not
who
if it's plowing
refuses
snow.
raises and all that sometimes, you've never met anyone else come in and tell you they don't want a raise, have you? That's just not human nature.
That's the value of doing a compensation study, is one, to know where the floor is, right? We don't want to be the lowest paying employee, but we also don't want, I'm the comptroller, I work in finance, I budget. We don't also want to take a stab in the dark and just offer, $45 an hour for a labor. We want to be educated. We want to be educated on what's the right rate to pay for which job and what will get us the best service for our citizens by being able to fill positions that we have at the city. So
A year and a half ago, we had to fill a code enforcement inspector position. We got 3 applicants, 2 were not qualified. We went through collective bargaining, and you all, and I thank you for it, approved the IBEW for the inspectors. We had 13 or 14 applicants this go around. Most of them were not qualified, but the 2 we made offers to, because we had to fill the 1 position and we're going to have 4 inspectors once they hit the ground, appear to be outstanding candidates. And we're very, they are better than the ones that were hired the last 2 go-arounds. So the increased compensation, I am convinced. In fact, a couple of them, we interviewed, four or so, indicated that one of the reasons they were interested was the increase in wages. And as I say, I thank you for doing that.
The other thing that I hope we can consider is also the people that are with us. For example, I have employees that have been with us for 30 some years, that are making a certain salary. And if you look at what other folks are making comparably in similar positions, they're making much more with help, with having assistance, with having, we have a human relations division of one person. And other places they have 4 people, and yes, they're bigger than us, but they're not 4 times as large as we are. So we ask our people to do a lot for relatively little. And I think it's only a matter of time before we lose some of the best people that we have if we don't make sure that our rates are competitive with other places. And the other thing is, how do we decide who gets a raise and when? You know, I could say this person deserves a raise or that person deserves a raise. This gives us something that I haven't said it and said, they haven't said, you all haven't said, but the market has said, look, this is what folks who are being paid to do these types of jobs and to do them well, So we need to have an understanding of what our competitors are doing too, so that we can stay competitive, unless we're just willing to accept whoever to take any of our jobs. And I know y'all. And that's definitely not what we want in our community. We want people that are excellent because our people deserve excellent service. Alderwoman, Vice Mayor Teague has a.
Yes, Vice Mayor.
The 2 questions that I had were, and I think one of them you're planning to address, which is when was the last time we had a compensation study? So I'm looking forward to seeing that information. And then the follow-up question on that is, how comprehensive was the study that was done previously?
That's a great question. The only individuals that were included in the last wage study were non-union personnel.
Okay. And then my next question is, will the study, if we do decide to do it, will it include elected positions? Because that would have been helpful when we were talking about alderman and mayor, and I wouldn't have had to do so much research myself.
That's a good question. The number of positions that I gave to them, I did not include elected positions. We can go back. They're going to charge more if we do that, but that's going to be really tough considering our current alderman form of government is, a part-time. How much does each person invest? But currently, no, that was not included in that proposal.
I think that would be useful for the public. Now, I don't know if that would end up being a different cost or even a second proposal at another time, but I think that would be useful for public conversation.
Are you saying mayor and treasurer, or mayor, treasurer, and alderman?
Mayor, treasurer, and alderman, especially treasurer's position, because when I did my research, it's easy to find mayor versus mayor, because every city has a mayor or a village president or something. But it's hard to find treasurer information. So we don't know if what we did was good or bad or anything. We just did what we thought was best because there was very little data.
Okay. The price, I'm sure it probably will change. But I can find that out and bring that to city council.
And that could even be a second type of thing that maybe comes up later if we don't want to hold up what was already proposed.
Okay.
Vice Mayor, what I would think is they could probably get us a reasonable number pretty quickly, because my thought is if we could do it all at one time, that would probably save us a lot of headache and cost, because if they have to do everything from scratch again for a separate study. So you have a great point there. And I need to verify this, but I'm pretty sure the last wage study was done in 14 and 15 and released in 16.
Yeah, I thought it was 16. Yeah.
So I think at the latest 15 and released in 16, but we'll check to verify.
But to her point, it only included non-union employees. It didn't include union employees.
Right, whereas with this, we're included everyone.
And I think it's important for everyone to know that those studies were done by us as individuals. We had to fill out the paperwork ourselves to justify why we were making what we were making as well.
And I believe at least some folks who were no longer with us, when they listed their responsibilities after Director Carpenter and I reviewing them, they listed a whole bunch of things that, number one, they didn't actually do, and number two, that were not city responsibilities. They were things that they did of their own volition.
Also, as we send out these, jobs, for applications, is there any job description as well sent out, according to those jobs?
Yes, sir.
Yes, every job that we put out, advertised that we want help for, they all have job descriptions with them and tell you what is required of you.
Yeah, because I just heard the counselor said that they had all those applications and didn't any of them, they had the requirements to do the job. So that would save us some reviewing if they knew ahead of time.
Alderman
They
Butler,
do know.
they do know, and they still put,
And
I
they still
mean,
put
I
'em
had,
out.
when we hired corporation counsel, we had folks who were working at McDonald's, which is nothing wrong with working at
Right,
McDonald's,
right.
but if you don't even have a bachelor's degree, there's no way you're gonna be able to be the corporation counsel who has a JD and experience, So folks sometimes just, they see a salary range or, oh, I like this title or what they do, and they think, I wanna go for it, not realizing, or sometimes not caring, that they don't really meet the criteria.
In the context of the compensation study proposal in front of you, is the only information that the entity, so if you approve the HUB agreement, the only information HUB will be reviewing is the job description, which we have already started reviewing job descriptions internally, and we've set up a mechanism that no individual is reviewing and would never approve, but no individual is reviewing their own job description, right? So supervisors are reviewing their subordinates. Any division and department heads are sending them to mayor for review. So there's no mechanism of, let me just beef up my job description, right before this with no review process. That's not going to happen. And then the other information they would review is information that would be provided by our personnel department. So hire date, so they can calculate longevity. Do they have any kind of shift differential or just different things like that? Like in the police department, fire, the different rank, first, second level. So that's the only information they'll be reviewing. There's no individual justifying in this study, me calling them up and saying, hey, I really think I deserve blank because I do blank. That's not going to be a dynamic of this study. It is truly data driven.
Vice Chairman.
It's okay. I was Vice Mayor a week ago. I was leaning against saying no until what the Vice Mayor said, because maybe it's because she and I were the ones who were trying to do the research, but especially you always hear with the mayor's salary, we always get knocked because of the salary we provided, but they never include the fact that the other places all have city managers and, and other people who take care of that. Not information, the financial officers are different. So if that was included, I think people will have a much better understanding where everyone should be, where they should be. Did we approve too much? Didn't we approve enough? So, see, your first vice mayor thing, you've already convinced me.
Anyone else? Okay. Roll call, please.
Alderman Bouchard,
Yes.
Wands,
Yes.
Wilson,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
O'Kane,
Yes.
Iverson,
Yes.
Poor,
Yes.
7 yes.
7 yes, thank you. Items of Information Director or Comptroller, any items of information? Okay, thank you. Item number 9, Public Transportation Director Beath, items of information, the monthly report.
First of all, thank you for all those yes votes, because I really wanted to say something and I thought I better bite my tongue. So, yeah. So the only thing I wanted to bring up was, well, first of all, we did go up in numbers again. We're on a roll here. Every month the numbers are staying consistently positive from last year's numbers. So we're very excited about that. We are in the process of getting some cost determinations for the work that needs to be done in the back lot, including our underground storage tanks. There's a lot of red tape involved with this because I have to set DBE goals and so forth. And in order to get my DBE goals from IDOT, I have to submit the cost estimates. So anyhow, there's a lot of pre-work that needs to be done before we can start getting the work done. But if you've been past there, you may notice that we've blocked off certain parts of our parking lot because it is just getting hazardous. We had an employee fall and get hurt a couple weeks ago out there, so we blocked some more off. So pretty soon we're going to be parking in what used to be Harold's Club across the street if we if we don't if we don't get something done. So anyhow, that should be kicking off here before too long. Nothing else. We have plenty of drivers, and so now we're looking for dispatch and utility employees. So the utility employees are just cleaning the buses, fueling the buses, getting them ready for the next day of service. So there's not, it's not a lot of not a lot of skills involved besides the ability to just, follow the directions each night. And, whether you think so or not, it is a very important position. So, anyhow, and dispatcher, I think that is getting posted tomorrow. So hopefully we'll get some good applications from I've had a couple of drivers tell me they want to be a dispatcher. And I said, you're going to take a $2 an hour cut and pay. I don't care. So, okay. Actually, that's the best of both worlds. They already know how things work in there, right? But anyhow, that's where we're at.
Any questions for Director Bees? Okay. Moving on to item number 10, Public Works, Director Carpenter. If there's no objection, I'd like to take 10A, B, and C together. They all deal with Chapter 77. Basically, traffic lights and school signals and things that control traffic. So, if there's no objection, I'd like to take A, B, and C together. Okay.
There a motion? So moved.
Second.
Okay.
I'll just, as an overview, there were just a few spots that were kind of triggering some changes here. One in particular was out at Eastgate Court, the intersection with the frontage roads there. Currently, I believe we actually went ahead and switched it out already, but it had yield signs rather than stop signs. And with, upcoming additional traffic, we just wanted to get rid of some confusion. I don't recall some of the other changes. I mean, they are highlighted through there, but we went ahead and our department did kind of an audit of this ordinance because we saw several items that are not as they actually are. And that's where a lot of these changes, a lot of it's just correcting stuff that's never been corrected over the decades has changed. So I can't tell you that it's perfect, but we tried. So
Questions on A, B, or C? Okay, roll call, please.
Alderman Wands,
Yes.
Wilson,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
O'Kane,
Yes.
Iverson,
Yes.
Bouchard,
Yes.
4,
Yes.
7 yes.
7 yes, thank you. 10D is a resolution approving an amendment of a professional services agreement for various bridge repairs. Need a motion to put that on the table, please.
So moved. Second.
all right, you're all looking at me. Okay, so this amendment, it is a pretty healthy amendment. Most of the extra cost that basically is being incurred. So I guess I'll circle back. We have Farnworth Group as our consultant. They're working on design of repairs and rehabilitation of like 10 of our bridges that need joint replacements, painting, various repairs to just ensure their longevity. In that process, we have to go through various permitting processes through the Army Corps of Engineers and through IDNR and through EPA and with IDOT, all these different agencies. One of the biggest hits in particular is on the Hungry Hollow Bridge. That's the arch bridge that you all probably know. So because of its very unique nature, it's considered a fracture critical bridge, which is the same style of bridge that collapsed in Minneapolis, a decade ago. Basically, right before that bridge was completed, that collapse happened. Which means that to do any modifications, we have to do very detailed analysis of each critical component. And the amount of critical components that need to be analyzed is a lot more than what was originally considered the case based on what IDOT said. So the consultants come back and it's going to take a lot more money basically to do that analysis. and all of that is basically to facilitate us being able to replace the joints so that they're not leaking onto the beams, and also overlay the deck to keep salt and water and things like that out of the deck, because that's a very expensive bridge to replace or rehabilitate. So we want to preserve its life. A few others, there's just some notes in here. We added some joint replacements to a bridge. I think the Bowman Ave, would it be North Bowman over Stony? We added a joint replacement on both sides because, well, they weren't anticipated before, but based on additional deterioration, we needed to add them to the contract. The approach slab, which is the concrete right before you get to the bridge, has begun to fail, so it needs to be replaced as well. And then there's just additional efforts with that. Also, the Fairchild Bridge over Stony Creek, we've added an approach slab replacement to the west side because that approach slab is doing some very odd things. It just kind of springs up and down, and if you drive over it, you'll notice a bump. Basically, we have to replace it to resolve that issue. And then Hampton Road over a stream that's right next to the river. Basically, we've revised what we're doing there. That road serves a handful of houses, and it basically needs some erosion prevention so that the river doesn't consume it before too long, basically. So those are the changes that have just, in typical fashion, projects kind of evolve as they go, and this is where we're at. So we're coming back and expanding the scope to make sure we can fix or address what we need to address.
Questions?
Yes, I have one question. I don't know if I heard or not that, of the bridge over Stony, the one that's down on South Street.
It's actually not in this scope. However, that is, we have applied for funding to replace that bridge as a separate item. It's, as far as unfunded bridge replacements go, it's the one that's in the worst shape of all of our bridges. And it's not rehabable. It's basically got to be removed and replaced. So I'm still waiting on hearing if we got funding for that. And, we will keep applying. At this point, it's not to a condition that it's been load rated, meaning that we've had to reduce the weight of what can go over it. But that if we do not secure funding and get replacement in queue, that is something that we may see happen over the coming years.
Other questions?
This,
Yes.
this is indirectly, not directed to this, but on the grinder out at the wood pile, did we get that solved, Arbiter?
No, that unit is still at Vermeer Midwest being repaired.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's going to be repairable then?
Well, everything's repairable. It's
Yeah.
just the price we have to pay for it. But yeah, they will be fixing it.
Okay.
Okay, roll call please on 10D.
Alderman Wilson,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
O'Kane,
Yes.
Iverson,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Wands,
Yes.
4,
Yes,
7 yes.
7 yes, thank you. 10E is a resolution approving the joint funding agreement for improvement of East William Street from Bowman Avenue to State Street. You most put that on table.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, this is the good stuff. This is where we still spend money, but we get to spend other people's money too. Anyway, this is the funding agreement. Basically, it's related to hatching, mill and overlay, striping bike lanes, doing curb ramp upgrades along East William Street from Bowman Avenue out to State Street. So that's, I don't know, kind of the wider concrete section, mostly concrete section through there. This was, I think, as you'll see in the resolution, we previously approved engineering funding for this. Selection of this project went through the Danville Area Transportation Study, and the group selected this as the most competitive project. And basically, we secured federal funds through that process. So those federal funds pay for 80% of the construction costs of the project, and then the city it provides the 20% match. So in order to get this out to bid and award, we have to approve this agreement that says that we are going to provide the 20% match. Right now, this project is slated for bidding in June of this year. So we'll likely see constructions. I can't tell you if it's going to get done in the fall. We'll likely see it at least start in the fall and then possibly go to next year, depending on uh, everybody's schedules.
So our 20% would be 320,000.
At least that's the estimate. So,
The estimate out of a 1.7 million project.
right, that's correct.
That's out of COVID money.
That is actually there was a little bit of COVID money that went to the metropolitan area. I think that's like 160,000. The rest of that is normal. It's a federal allocation of transportation funds that's kind of comes through to the Danville area, the metropolitan area. So right now, the metropolitan area gets about $800,000 a year to program projects for, and the DATS committee selects those projects. Once after this next year, that number is going to change drastically because of our metropolitan status change. We expect that instead of going through DATS, Danville will get a direct allocation, but it will be more like $460,000 a year rather than $800,000 for the region. So that's a big hit in just only one of the places that plays into. So I guess that's a complicated answer. That's what I do.
And that's all, and that's already in our budget, correct? We already budgeted for that decrease for next year.
We don't
So-
actually currently we do not budget for those funds because those are actually not funds that are guaranteed to the city. So they're somewhat like a grant where we would, and in this case, we never actually see this money. It never comes to the city. So on these federal projects, we entered into this agreement. The state actually bids the project and they pay the contractor and then they invoice us and we pay reimbursements. So in this case, there's not necessarily a budget hit to us. However, there is less money out there for us to be programming and seeking on an annual basis starting next year.
I can tell you guys, this is something that since I've been an alderman, people have been asking for, and those of you who drive it for any reason know that it's been rough for a while. So this will be a huge project and a main arterial in our community, and I know the folks who live in the center and east part of towns will sure appreciate it.
Yeah, I can tell you the streets department is looking forward to this also because we have a Pothole Fighter 5000 app that we use to track pothole patching, and it is lighting up out there. So there's been a lot of patching gone on there in the last few years.
Our COVID money is 160,000.
Okay, yeah.
What's be used first?
Yes, and it's an oddball thing. It's not city's COVID money. It's like DAT's COVID money. So, yeah.
So that's 9/10 of a mile, and you can see the cost.
And that's just patching and overlay. That's not
not
the cheap
replacing.
version.
No, yeah.
So,
And we actually approved this once before, right? This is just like the paperwork to get the
yeah,
state.
we actually approved. I can't remember the act. I would looked back through it to see if I approved enough for mayor to just sign this, and we did not. But we approved the engineering for it and some other elements, but not specifically the fund. And we appropriated. I guess what we did was we appropriated funds. So, but I did not include language that authorized the mayor to sign this agreement. So here we are again.
March 15, 2022.
That off the top of your head, right?
I just read it. I remember.
And so that when you said that, that this is a cheap way of doing it, now, are you gonna do William Street the same way that you've been doing the side streets? Or just patching the side, kind of lifting up the sides?
No, I mean, this isn't like what you're seeing there is like an oil and chip
Right.
street repair. This is less, I guess I shouldn't say cheap. This is the second most expensive method that we use to repair roads in general. It's basically significant patching of the concrete that's failing now. So actually removing all of that and replacing it. And then it's going to get an asphalt overlay over the top of the entire surface before it's done. So the life expectancy of this improvement is about probably 20 years with maintenance and proactive, stuff. We can stretch that. For perspective, I don't remember how many square yards this is, but let's just say this project's in the ballpark of $40 to $50 per square yard of pavement. a reconstruction project, and this is so per mile. Well, what was the total cost? Did you say, Mike? It was, so it was 9/10 of a mile. I can't remember what the total.
Almost 1.8.
1.8. If we were to reconstruct that, like rip everything out and replace, you're probably looking at 4 million, something like that, to do it for a little bit longer life cycle, but not much. This is a very extensive improvement, and is a way for us to stretch taxpayer dollars further, because it's not ready to be reconstructed. It's not that bad yet. It's bad, but it's got it's got some life left in there if we do the right things.
Okay. Other questions? Okay. Roll call, please.
Alderman Butler,
Yes.
O'Kane,
Yes.
Iverson,
Yes.
Bouchard,
Yes.
Wands,
Yes.
Wilson,
Yes.
Poor,
Yes.
7 yes.
7 yes, thank you. 10F is a resolution approving the downtown TIF redevelopment incentive program grant application. Need a motion to put that on the table?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, this, as you see, it's for B&T Martial Arts, which is in the first block of the Vermillion Street. They've been in business for several years now. I think they specialize in jujitsu, if I'm not mistaken. A couple of our employees actually participate in that as well. And they're going to do a complete re-roof of their building. And this will be a 50% cost share with them. The amount could be less if you look down into their bid. If the entire roof needs replaced, it'll be 64,220. If they only have to do partial, it could be as low as 53,000. So.
And these typically could go up to 50,000 in reimbursements on these
Correct.
TIF projects. So that's well within the TIF guidelines.
Just to give you all some perspective, me and Logan and Dave Rui and went up in this building to look, and they have right now basically some kiddie pools keeping spots from it coming in on the next floor. But the rest of it is a good building. If the roof is fixed, then it's a really good salvageable building. If we let the roof go, it's going to be a bad building attached to two other buildings. It's going to probably cost the taxpayers a lot more. And like Director Carpenter said, there are programs for young people, programs for adults there that are positive and productive. So I think this is a good partnership for us to save a building and to help with good positive activities for our young people and families.
And then this is a grant, so it does not get repaid, correct?
That's correct.
Correct. Whereas some of the money gets repaid over, or we make it up in 5 to 7 years on some of the TIF projects, but this one is a grant, an outright grant. We've done that with several business owners downtown to, help them out and to save the buildings. Okay, any questions? Okay, roll call, yep. Oh,
I have a question. Just for the purposes of context, could we possibly, every time we get a TIF request, see how much is available in the fund and how much would be left?
Yes, you can. Logan's not here tonight. I don't have that with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was actually looking at Ashlyn, but thank you.
Yeah, we definitely can. The only reason I hesitated is I don't know. We budget ahead of time for TIF funds, so TIF funds don't only go to grants. There are different things that it can
Okay.
do. Like it did the sidewalks, and I think it was the Midtown TIF recently. So we'll be planning that a year or two out. That's not something we can do.
mhm.
Yeah, and
quickly.
we can provide that information, but something that in the course of work, there are conversations about projects that are always taking place. And there are conversations about the ability to fund projects that are had before their official income to council or whatever. So there's a strong possibility there's projects that are taking place behind the scenes or planned behind the scenes that we're not going to be able to necessarily that the people working on them don't want us to discuss.
Right.
So there may be theoretical promises or potential applications for funds that you're not going to see reflected in the budget. And that is a challenge with this type of funding, I guess. So while we can do that, that's not necessarily a true reflection of exactly what's there. There are annual reimbursements that we have to make and other things like that that aren't programmed in that you won't see necessarily. So, but it's easy to run the report and just say, here's what's there. There's just a lot more to it.
And Alderman Butler, on the city website under the budget, it lists all the different TIF districts and what their balances are and what expenditures have been and things like that and the boundaries. So what do we have, six? Five?
Is the goal of your request to know basically what would be available for grants, like to other businesses like this one? Because if I know what the goal of the information is, I can find out what's most useful to give you. That's what I started running through when you asked that.
Well, in the conversations that I've had with Logan previously about TIF, I know in some of those conversations he's pointed out, well, TIF X is flush with cash, TIF Y might be almost tapped out. So if you have TIF Y come up and it's a $40,000 or $50,000 request, well, how much is left? Because I think that helps other people who are in TIF Y know, could they make a request for their roof or something of that nature? And I understand what you're saying. Like there's projects on the horizon that aren't baked into the budget, right? But as with every budget, you have expenditures that are anticipated that actually haven't come up yet. And so it's a point in time to say, right now, this is what we have. Now, other things will come up in a month or 2 months or 6 months, and that will change. But whenever the next TIF request comes up, that's coming before everybody, there will be that point in time where there's that much money left. So it's really just a snapshot.
Let me get with Logan and see what we can come up with to see what kind of useful information we can
Okay.
give you guys.
Thank you.
It's like this, the Sonic project and Jimmy John. I mean, that's not gonna be putting any money back into that TIF district until it's built in a couple years, then it's gonna take 5 to 7 years for that to get built back up. Same thing with the Kirshner project and different things. So those all take time to, increase the property values around. That goes back into the TIF district.
And so on this TIF district, anyone could apply for that within the TIF district. So, the reason why I asked, I had a lady approach me that I have some deep concern about what they do, and I am passionate about what they do, and that's the new direction treatment center down there. So she went to out on Voorhees to try to get some of the funding. That I think we got $100,000 there through the COVID money, and so she had to be a for-profit organization, is what she was told. So, because you had the $10,000 that she was given, and so she was wanting to know where can she get some funding because so she was really hurt during the pandemic, and then with this casino that's coming up there, just think of the different people that's going to be coming through her facility for help and guidance and recovery. And on top of that too, do we have any buildings here on Vermilion Street other than I know the Turk building is already taken? And is there a larger building that she might could use here in town that will help her facility?
That'd be something she could get with Logan on,
Logan, or
Nicole Van.
or a realtor and work with them and look for properties that are available. I mean, there's too many variables for. There are times when people come to us and ask for ideas, but short of understanding 100% their businesses, their finances, their resources, it's very difficult to put together a plan for that. And just and I guess I'll speak to the for-profit status. With TIF, what occurs is all of the taxing bodies basically agree to forego increases in property taxes for a period of time. And that money, that increased revenue, because the values do go up, that difference goes into this TIF account for the whole purpose of reinvesting in that region. And those reinvestments can be in the form of redevelopment agreements, investments in buildings, public improvements. We have to have an eye for projects that add to the tax base of that area. And with nonprofit entities
taxes.
not paying taxes, that's extremely problematic when you look at, will we ever recoup any funds?
it's
And will the
prohibited.
public recoup funds
It's
for
prohibited
that?
by the TIF laws.
But the other thing I think you were talking about, Mr. Butler, though, when we had the COVID money that people were getting like
Right.
$10,000, the law said that you could not give those to nonprofits. So like we couldn't help out Laura Lee, Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, any of those entities because the law prohibited us from doing that. It was only for the 10,000 or for the 2,000 if you were like an individual contractor or like a hairdresser or something like that. The law said that they had to be for-profit entities. So that's why New Directions wasn't eligible for that funding, but that's not TIF funding though.
Right.
So TIF is tax increment
Finance.
finance.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now would that entity be qualified for the TIF?
I can't answer that with certainty. I would say there are, I don't, I'd have to look into that more, or Logan would have to look into that more to say for sure. I just say nonprofit participation in TIF is a tough sell for the reasons that I was indicating. I don't know that it's prohibited, but we have to be very purposeful in how we direct that.
Because of the property tax they pay.
You understand?
And the fact the county, the schools, everybody's foregoing
Mhm.
collecting that property tax off that in development.
Right. An example of how we might partner with a nonprofit would be in the form of public improvements by their agency, right? So let's say the sidewalks were terrible and the TIF district had money. Well, now the city can come, if they're going to do improvements to the building, we can partner with them in the right of way to try to make it look like a nicer thing. That's an approved use of the funds that they somewhat benefit from, but we're not directly giving them money. So that's something we'll have to dig into. We get asked that a lot, and it's, like I said, it's a very tough sell because there is no payback on a nonprofit investment.
She might
So,
be better off going with CDBG dollars, trying that route.
And also the other thing is, Brother Butler, I don't think that we clarified is that TIF is for some kind of concrete purposes. So it's not for operating expenses for you to pay
no,
employees or
right.
anything like that. It's
So,
only if you need a roof,
Infrastructure.
you have siding that needs replaced, basically any kind of infrastructure type things.
Yeah, right there, because I was, every time I go by there, I look at Uncle Joe Cannon picture up there, and, and I look at the building, it's black and it's brown and, it needs some kind of facelift to make Uncle Joe stand out, And, I was concerned about that as well, so.
Okay. A lot of information out there though. You better talk with Logan. He'll,
Yeah.
because there's specific guidelines, specific applications, specific. Okay, without any other questions, roll call on 10F, please.
Alderman O'Kane,
Yes.
Iverson,
Yes.
Bouchard,
Yes.
Wands,
Yes.
Wilson,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
4,
Yes,
7 yes.
7 yes, thank you. 10G, items of information.
Just to expand a little bit on Alderman Pashard's question about the yard waste site. The tub grinder, which is very old, that I told you we spent a little bit of money on to keep running while the horizontal grinder was being repaired, has been repaired. It is up and running. We are processing the product, so we are staying up with the IEPA mandates for the site, and we are in compliance with them. We'll still have compost in the future to sell. We'll still have mulch in the future to sell. We got a mountain of mulch. And once again, if anybody has not ever been out there, I would suggest you go out there just to see how tremendous of an operation it actually is, okay? To remind the Public Works Committee that next Tuesday, Jim will be here from Harrison Park to give a presentation on everything that's been going on at Harrison Park, some of the things that we'd like to do in the future down at Harrison Park. So I would encourage everybody to attend the council meeting next week for that purpose if they possibly can. Speaking of positions, we did have 4 openings in Public Works. We had 1 in streets, 1 in parks. No, correct me. 1 in streets, 2 in parks, and 1 in solid waste. And we have made offers to individuals and they've accepted them. Those should all be up and running, filled fully by the end of this month. And if we don't have anything else happen, we will actually be fully staffed for the first time in a very long time. And I think you can already see some of the fruition of, we thank you guys again for approving the extra positions in the Parks Department. The parks are staying mowed. They look a little better now than they did last year. Granted, I'm sure we haven't had quite the rain this year that we had last year until this last week. But once again, thank you guys for approving that because you see it does help us out in the long run, okay? Yard waste has gone to the every other week collection period now, the A and B collection. So remind your constituents if they call. I don't think we've had a lot of calls this year on that. That the yard waste seems to be working real well. This is our first year without our longtime employee that used to do the yard waste, Jerry Rife. She was our yard waste operator since 2006 when I took over solid waste. So, but we've had a couple other individuals step up and take ownership of that route. So I think we're doing real well. We may be coming to you here within the next month or so. I believe I mentioned this earlier this year about possibly needing a study done on the irrigation system out at Harrison Park. That thing was put in 2001, shortly after I started working down there. I can tell you that the company that was chosen to put it in was, I don't want to say hillbillies, but they were from Southern Illinois, and they didn't really care about how they got their job done. And it served us well for 20 years, but that is the life expectancy of an irrigation system is roughly 20 years. We're going on 22 this year. It's working currently, but we don't know how much longer it's going to work. It'd be nice to know now instead of 2 years from now when it fails, that all of a sudden we have to come up with $3 or $4 million. If we get a study done this year, perhaps we can start putting a little money back. I believe Ashland could attest. We did pretty well, didn't we? With the Harrison Park funds this year. So
Harrison Park, last time I checked, after having 3 years in a row of general funds needing to make additional contributions, had $138,000 in
Wow,
Fund
good job.
400. So definitely not 3 or 4 million, but
no, but
better than before.
and I can attest, as you know, I started out there in 2000 and I know what it was like working down there. And the budget would start in January of every year at that time down there, and we'd be out of money by the end of March every year. And that didn't happen to us this year. So
Don't use the tractor anymore for the pump, do you?
no, we haven't used that for a long, long time. The one pump is still down there though. If you recall, that's what we pumped out.
Yeah.
What was the eye place that burnt down? Chiddix years
Chiddix.
ago.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
that's all I've got.
Chairman, that's a testament though to leadership and also us running our own in-house system in terms of concessions and things like that. But Jim has done a tremendous job out there, he and his team, and we really appreciate them. You can tell a difference too, and it looks good. If y'all haven't been down there lately, I encourage you. It looks great.
A lot of good positive comments from the community. Okay, thank you, Director. Item number 11, closed session. There is no need for closed session. Item number 12, items of information. Anybody have anything? Alderman Pritchard.
This will be the first Saturday for our Danville Farmers Market also at Crossroads Church. And their free electronics collection
Oh, at that.
will be Saturday also.
Yeah,
So,
DAX only 9 to 11,
yes,
and it's only electronics, no batteries or anything like that.
no, sir.
Okay,
And no cell phones. They said either.
no
which I
cell
thought was
phones.
strange.
Where's that?
At DAC, 9 to 11.
Where is that at
In
though?
the park, you just go in the main
Not
parking
Danville
lot.
Area Community College.
At DAC.
At
In
DAC,
the front parking lot
front
area
parking
there.
lot.
I hadn't heard anything
It'll
about
take up to 7 items, I believe, in it, Jim?
Yes.
Uh,
It's 7, yeah.
I think so, yeah, 7 items. I got this out of the magazine that we get. I hadn't seen it on the internet yet, but
Yeah.
Jim, is that put on by the health department again?
Yeah.
yeah, it looks
Lake
like
County,
Public
yeah.
Health and DAC and
Okay,
Keep Vermilion County Beautiful.
all right.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you for that. Committee members' comments.
Turn on the heat. It's
What?
cold in here.
Turn on the heat.
It's the AC.
I got loose pimples.
Don't come to Public Works unless you want to sweat.
So we had a system shut down, like it just shut down on its own. When we rebooted, some of them, it rebooted at a lower temperature, so we may have missed this one. I've Josiah check, because some of it, everything is supposed to be at 72 and they shot down to 69, so.
I just thought it was because
One
we
other
didn't
remark.
have 100 million people
Well,
in
that's
the
true.
building this week.
That's true, too.
Okay.
Yeah,
Alderman Chardon had something again.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, one other remark, the community church, I think is what they call family church over on Bowman Holiday Drive.
Mhm.
The pastor is leaving this weekend. They're apparently not going to replace the pastor. My understanding is it's not a corporate, but the head of the church, I think, is in Albany, Indiana, and Peoria or something, but they're going to put the church up for sale.
Is that the one in the
Yes.
Heavenly
It's
Square?
where the
Right on
the
right
Holiday
on-
Hills Neighborhood Association meets. I think they're going to allow me to have my meetings in May, which is this week, and in June. And so we'll be probably looking for someplace else to meet.
Maybe we'll be able to connect you with Pastor Miller or the Lutheran Church or someone in that area. I'm
Yes,
sure
sir.
will step up and let
Okay.
us.
I need to get a hold of Ashlyn and make sure she's aware too, so she can work with me on that.
Of course, neighborhood meetings are starting up. Center City Neighborhood group met this past Thursday. Mr. Butler, that's yours and Mr. Williams. Ward 5 has about a half a block in that area, but that's 3 times a year at Central Christian Church. So the next one will be July and then one in September at 7 o'clock. July and September. They'd like you guys to come so they can meet their new alderman. Okay, and usually I attend, and then Tom Stone's widow also is there, but
July what now, you said?
it'll be the first Thursday in July and the first Thursday in September.
Okay, at what time?
At 7 o'clock.
7:30.
And Dave Rui was our speaker last week and did a very good job. Very good job. And then Lincoln Park Historic District Neighborhood Association will be meeting the 18th, our first meeting of the year as well. So,
Yeah, I got one comment there too, Chairman. You all know that I'm up here at North Ridge, kind of directing traffic and, making sure the kids get in school safe. And for a long time, when the bus come out, there are big humps in there. And sometimes I got to stand back because it get full of water. And when the bus comes down, it kind of splash the water. And I like to thank Carl and his crew of coming up there patching it and, the holes and everything. And it's really holding up well. Y'all put a different type of patch there. And, and I really appreciate it. The bus drivers sure appreciate it because you can stand out there and you can see the wheel. When the wheel hit that hole, it quivers, and that has to do with, a bad suspension, after a while. And so I really appreciate it. I suppose might have to get with the school system. They're trying to make it safe to where that they had the parents to go into the Legion's lot And, and it's beginning to develop holes up there. And so I don't know if the city or the Legion or the district has to kind of go up there and do some kind of dragging or something there. And the other issue I have is, and thanks for the signs, the, what you call it?
Yeah,
The
speed
speed
limit.
speed signs, yeah. Yeah, so some listen to it and some don't. And, look at it, but I have to talk to Yates. Got one guy, he just makes, every morning he makes a U-turn. And the traffic has to stop. So, let him do his U-turn, so,
Get his license plate number.
yeah,
Write that down quick.
yeah, do that.
Well, I wanted to get that patch because there's nothing worse than a wet butler, is there?
Yeah, you got that right. Got that right. I'm at the age now, man, I don't like to get wet.
Sam has some.
I forgot to mention this, and Lisa saved me. Hopefully, I remember next week too. So, coming up on May 18th, there is an open house for the Vermilion County Safety Action Plan. That is going to be hosted at Carl Clinic. They've got a conference room there on the first floor they're letting us use. I would really encourage all of you to come to this. I don't know that you're going to be able to see in detail all of what's gone into this effort, but this is a massive effort that looks at safety data. There have been public surveys related to this. They've looked at 5 years of safety data to really try to help us get a handle on where our traffic safety issues are, and really help us, locally try to pursue this Vision Zero, which has really been talked about at the federal level, that like really no fatality is acceptable, right? Something that that's from 5 to 7 p.m. there at the new Carl at the Riverfront facility. Something that was just shocking to me that is besides just, the deaths not being acceptable in general, when we monetize the average annual financial impact to Vermilion County of traffic injuries, accidents, and fatalities, the social impact basically of that is $100 million per year. I mean, that's massive when you compare that to like what we're funding, so the losses, the injuries, all these economic impacts, it really is something that we need to understand better. And, that's what we're striving to do. So I would encourage you it's going to basically be an overview of what we've found, some of the mechanisms that we'll look at for how to try to resolve these things. And ultimately, this process is going to set us up to be very competitive for federal grants through the Safe Streets for All program and other safety grants. So it's really a win-win. It's helped us understand our communities better and going to make us very competitive in the future.
What's the date on that again, Sam?
It's Thursday, May 18th. So not this week, but next week, 5 to 7 p.m. And it's an open house format. So it's just come and go as you please. Not, can go through and you can ask questions. You can look at some storyboards about what the data has shown us. We'll be there, to answer things. And there won't be like a formal presentation, or anything like that. So
That was a successful first Friday.
It was awesome. I don't know if you all had a chance to attend, but we had several thousand people there again, and it's just great to see everyone having so much fun. Had a great car show. It was nice. We renamed the Cannon Building as well. That was a great honor to be able to be a part of that. It was good.
Good things
So
happen.
had a good turnout at the Harrison Park for the neighborhood associations too. It was pretty well packed out.
And the flowers were delivered downtown and the downtown crew got them planted today, so downtown's back in full bloom.
Yep.
You didn't bring them to my house and plant them?
That's against the law.
Because I'm going to have to do it now. Yeah.
Everybody's a week ahead of schedule. Good thing, because the weekend's supposed to be kind of rainy.
Yeah. I hope
Yes.
it rains when the plant.
Do we know what's being built on Vermilion Street next to the building that was burned out and had to be removed? I noticed there's a structure going up. Do we know what that
speak to
is?
that. I couldn't give you. So this is the unofficial thing. understand it. It's some kind of warehouse building for the flooring store. So
Oh.
they owned that building. I that's the general description, but it's all been permitted and is being constructed in compliance with our ordinances.
For
from what
Danville
I know.
Flooring Warehouse.
That's correct. Yes.
His name. Used to work for Milky's years ago.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Anything? All righty, haven't satisfied the agenda. Need a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.